Namaste, soul family and star family and subconscious community, and welcome to YouTubers from all over the world. Today we are talking about everybody's favorite little boy, girl, and everyone's favorite little hermaphrodite. You know, that's who we're talking about today. And you know, who's left to fit that description but our young friend Mercury. So today we're going to be talking about Mercury in this video. So let's just talk about Mercury a little bit here. So we got our lovely drawings over here, so we'll get to that in one sec. So we're going to talk about Mercury for a second real quick. So this is personally a fun subject for me because you know, I'm ruled by Mercury, being a Virgo rising. So we're going to talk all about the signs and the rulerships and the polarity, reception aspects, whatever the heck I'm calling them, for Mercury, and the signs that Mercury plays out through the most common, the most extreme. But just talking about Mercury in and of itself, we know it's the closest planet to the sun. You know, and when we're talking about Mercury, we're talking about and we're dealing with thinking and communication. So all thought and intellect. Forms of thought and intellect, it's all left brain for sure. It's a left brain, logic, thought, and communication. So it's a very air-like planet. The element air is very much present with Mercury and played out. Mercury plays out through air a lot. So, but that being said, Mercury does get some rulership and other things like that going on in Earth. So we're going to get to talking about that in one sec. But yeah, I think that's enough about Mercury, honestly. I don't know how much deeper we can really get with it. Me personally, you know, it depends on where Mercury is in your natal chart or in whatever chart you're looking at for the moment. You know, in my chart personally, I have Mercury combust with the sun only 3 degrees away. So, my chart ruler Mercury is basically being burned up by the sun, and those two energies kind of merge for me. So when I use Mercury, I use sun and Mercury together in conjunction a lot. And then I also throw Venus in there a lot because I have Venus 3 degrees away from there. So within a few degrees I have all my planets. We'll get there, man. Not about me. So we're talking about Mercury. So yeah. Mercury is a very neutral planet. It's very air-like, very neutral. It's very male and female. It's a one size fits all type of thing. You know, for me personally, my grandma and I both are ruled by Mercury, and she happens to be ruled by play out more of the masculine side of Mercury, being a Gemini rising, and I play out more of the feminine side of Mercury, being a Virgo rising. So that's just one interesting way in which you can see it plays out the opposite polarities of sex between me and my grandma, you know, talking about the way Mercury plays out. But it's very you know, unisex. So that being said, now that we kind of talked about that a little bit, let's get into our little chart over here. We're going to talk about the 4 signs that Mercury basically, you know, deals with. We're going to talk about that. So let's see. There we go. So there's Mercury right there. You can see him right there. See, look, there he is. And there's his name. One of his names, at least. And so right here, so when it comes to rulership and dignity of Mercury, we're going to be talking about the signs of Gemini and Virgo. So Gemini, naturally associated with the 3rd celestial house, and we're talking about Virgo, 6th celestial house. So we got the 3rd and the 6th house. That wise, you can have these signs in any house, though, in your natal chart, just to make that clear. So we got Gemini and we got Virgo, both mutable signs. So they're both mutable and adaptable. That's what mutable means, pretty much. And they're forming very broad thoughts and communication, because that's what Mercury is dealing with. So they're able to think and communicate on a very high level. There's this album called Soul Zodiac, and in the song, they got a song for each of the signs. They talk about Gemini, and they say intellectual power or intellectual capacity extremely unlimited. And it's true, because it's that mutable air aspects. They can keep going with that air, with that thinking and communicating all day. So Gemini specifically would be playing out the masculine side of Mercury, right, with the air, because that's the positive, let's see, I keep saying polarities in these videos. I'm using that word too much. What's the charge? That's what I'm looking for. It's a positive charge. So with the air and the fire being a positive charge and the earth and the water being a negative charge, in some other videos I said polarity, and I realize that'll get a little confusing with the titles of these videos. So I'm going to talk about that charge. So it's that air being that positive charge where the earth would be that negative charge, right? So that's the yin-yang of the left brain, of the thinking and the communication, and in this case of Mercury. So that's what Mercury deals with. So when it comes to Gemini, we're dealing with the masculine aspect, and we're dealing with being mutable and adaptable to yourself and other people's ways of thinking and communicating. It's Mercury is having a blast here. Mercury gets to express him or herself, in this case probably himself, as much as he possibly wants. He gets to think and communicate. He'll run his mouth all day in Gemini. We all know what Gemini represents. They can talk all day, and they got a million personas. They got a million different personalities, all these things, right? Because it's the masculine side of Mercury. Mercury doesn't, you can't even confine Mercury to a gender, man. So it's not like Mars or Venus. I mean, you can't really confine any planet to a gender. But speaking symbolically and speaking about, you know, just technically and that kind of thing too. So just talking about these signs a little bit. Gemini, masculine side of Mercury rulership. Virgo would be the feminine side of Mercury rulership. So with Gemini being mutable air, Virgo is mutable earth. So this is going to be the yin aspect or the feminine aspect to Mercury. And we're going to talk more about Virgo in a second. But so here's our little Virgo here, right? Virgo the maiden or the virgin, Gemini being the twins. So Virgo, this is what makes Virgo much unlike the other earth signs, because Taurus and Capricorn, you know, Mercury doesn't mess with those signs too much. But when it comes to Virgo, mutable earth, Mercury jumps. Literally, we're going to talk about it with the exaltation. Mercury jumps, though, here in Virgo, and it expresses the feminine side and the feminine qualities and the feminine aspects of itself. So that's what Virgo is all about. It's being mutable and adaptable to your own and other people's ways of thinking and being practical. So Virgos love to see how things work. You know, someone like Elon Musk has a Virgo moon. You know, he loves to, he's always been fascinated in how things work, and he's ultimately been able to create and come up with new ways, new systems of making things work in new ways that weren't previously thought of, you know, and he's bringing that into the world. And Virgos are best at that because they see all the details. They criticize and they analyze to the details. So not talking about the sign, not trying to talk about the sign too much, just trying to talk about why Mercury is so associated with Virgo and why you know, Virgo, that's what makes it unlike the other earth signs, because the earth signs are steady and stable, and that type of thing. And Mercury represents the opposite of that. It represents thinking and communication. So it's really an air planet, but Virgo is a very special sign, in this case of the earth signs, because it's ruled by Mercury in that aspect. So that's the first polarity. Oh, no, it's not, because we haven't got to the negative side. So those are the two positive on this planetary reception polarity chart for Mercury. We got the positive end with the rulership and dignities, so that was Gemini, Virgo. Now we're going to get to the bottom side of that, which is the opposite signs of those, where Mercury is in detriment. So we're talking about the polarities of the planets. Jupiter and Mercury are natural polar opposites. Jupiter dealing with knowledge, higher knowledge and wisdom, the exact opposite of thinking and communicating, because, you know, it's dealing with the wisdom and the knowledge aspect rather than the intellect side of it. So Jupiter is more of the right brain, whereas Mercury would be more of the left brain. But this is you know, you got to take it on a chin, I guess, or no, that's probably not the right way to say it. It's more like take it with a grain of salt, because you know, this is just one level we're getting onto right now. When it comes down to it, each planet plays out in all sorts of different energies. So we'll get into those in other videos. For now, though, that's the first aspect. The negative, that's the first positive yang aspect. The negative aspect for that, the yin aspect for this one, is going to be where Mercury is in detriment. So we had the rulers, Gemini, Virgo. The detriment are the opposite signs of Gemini and Virgo. So we're dealing with all the mutable signs here. So Mercury would be in detriment, where he works in the ways, he or she works in ways where he doesn't like to. It's not natural. It's very unnatural. It would be mutable fire and mutable water. We're talking about the good old Sagittarius and good old Pisces, the two signs ruled by Jupiter. So in this case, we've already dealt with all four mutable signs between the rulers and the detriments of Mercury. Let's just talk real quick about Sag and Pisces and why Mercury falls there. See right here, we got Sagittarius, and you know, naturally associated with the 9th celestial house. Pisces here, associated with the 12th celestial house, right? So the reason why Mercury is in detriment here is because these signs are ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter rules here, doesn't allow Mercury to think and communicate the way that he normally would. It's a whole new thing. We got mutable fire, being mutable and adaptable to your own and other people's ways of seeing and feeling, and so ultimately that becomes a very philosophical type of energy, and Mercury just doesn't really mess with that stuff. Mercury is concerned more with the pure left brain, the intellectual side of it. He doesn't care much about the philosophy of it, or the philosophical right brain of it, or the imagination, or any of that thing. Mercury could really care less about that when it comes down to it. Mercury deals with, what's my mission, what's the thought, and how am I going to express it? How am I going to communicate it? So Mercury can't do that in mutable fire. It's too expressive, it's too hot, it's too philosophical, and it's too, it's just not the right environment, man. So that's what it is there. So then we're going to talk about Mercury in Pisces real quick with the detriment. So Mercury also is in detriment here in Pisces. And we're going to talk more about Virgo and Pisces now because they get a double whammy when it comes to Mercury. But Mercury, as we can remember here, is dealing with all the mutable signs. So the mutable signs, in order, being Gemini, Virgo, those are ruled by Mercury. The next two signs are Sagittarius and Pisces. Those are ruled by Jupiter. So Mercury is in detriment there. That's the first planetary reception polarity for Mercury. Let me just dive into Pisces one more time real quick just to make sure we get it. Pisces representing mutable water. So we're talking about being mutable and adapted to your own and other people's ways of feeling and dealing with the emotion. So Pisces is the epitome of riding the waves, right? Especially if they're actually riding the waves. You can get stuck in a wave and kind of drowned and get stuck in a whirlpool and a current, all that type of thing. But for the most part, Pisces are some of the best surfers out there. Actually, yeah, this is real stuff right here, man. You see a lot of water signs out there riding the waves, man. Oh yeah, best believe it, man. Best believe it. Sometimes earth signs too. It depends, man. And all signs can hit it up, but we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about Virgo and Pisces now. The next polarity, planetary reception polarity aspect we're going to talk about here with Mercury. So we talked about the rulership or the dignity, and we talked about the detriment. Those are all four mutable signs when it comes down to it, 2 and 2. Now we're going to talk about the two mutable signs that will be highlighted when it comes to the second planetary reception polarity aspect for Mercury, which is going to be the exaltation, the polarity of the exaltation and the fall, the yang to the yin. The exaltation of Mercury is Virgo, and the fall of Mercury is Pisces. So we're going to talk more about Virgo and Pisces and how specifically Mercury kind of... it's like a double whammy with these signs, why Mercury both rules Virgo and it's exalted in Virgo. So Mercury, this is, I don't know if any other planet has any other placement like this besides Mercury and Virgo and Pisces. I would venture to say no. I'm 90% sure that's a no, because it's unheard of. This would be like being a famous rapper where you own the house, but you're also a guest of honor in that house every day and you live however you want. That's Mercury in Virgo. Mercury's in heaven in Virgo. It can think and communicate, but create and build off of those thoughts and communication forms. The thought forms and the forms of communication. The language. Mercury can build using that in Virgo. Virgo is a very Masonic sign. It's because it's dealing with mutable earth. It's dealing with bricks. It's dealing with, if it needs to, it'll destroy a building and then rebuild it the way it needs to be rebuilt. That's the Virgo type of energy we're talking about. And that's why Mercury loves it, because and it's the feminine side of Mercury. That's why Mercury loves it, because Mercury is in rulership here and exalted. That's why it's in heaven here, because he's able to think and communicate on the highest level anywhere he wants to and build and create off of that and bring into the physical, which is cool because it's earth. So bringing it into the physical. And it's a very intellectual, it's a very, very feminine intellectual. These can basically transfer over to some of the highest intellectual thought forms entertained by any one of our species, any humans, damn, any being, man, in the galaxy, man. I mean, this is real stuff, man. Virgo, man. So it's highly intellectual, just like Gemini. Gemini is the double whammy because it's air. So air naturally represents thinking and communication, and that's what Gemini represents. That's what Mercury represents. So it's a double whammy there. But it's an extra whammy for Virgo in the way that it's ruling here and exalted, because he could just do anything he wants. Or actually, in this case, it'd be she. Anything she wants. So, Mercury's crazy, man. I hope that's enough information for now. I mean, as far as the Virgo side of it goes, this is turning into kind of a long video, but hey, man, there's a lot to think and communicate when it comes to Mercury, man. A lot of Mercury going on right now. We have Mercury, so let's talk about Mercury and Pisces as far as the fall goes, because we have Mercury and Pisces right now. As I'm making this, Mercury is 15 degrees Pisces, conjunct by degree with Neptune, 15 degrees Pisces. So we're going to make this right now, and I'm ruled by Mercury, like I tell y'all, so I'm going to tell you this. I'm feeling it, right? We're going to talk about this. It's kind of a weird day for me to be making this video, man. It's hilarious, man. Anyone who's into astrology can dig that. But I'm going to do it, man, because that's what I do. We'll get into that when I talk more about me in another video or something. So, Mercury in Pisces, man. Not only is Mercury in detriment in Pisces, it's also fallen. So, it's the complete polar opposite to Virgo, where Mercury rules in Virgo and is exalted in Virgo. Mercury is in detriment and fallen in Virgo. So, basically, Mercury is really no way to describe it. Being, drowning. It's a whole host of different things. Drowning, being pummeled by waves, straight tsunamis, very, very, very illusory. See, that's the natural polar opposite of Mercury. Mercury representing intellectuality, left brain, thinking and communicating. Pisces representing, Jupiter, polar opposite of Mercury, and water, and mutable water at that, so it's very illusory. There's also a Neptune factor here in Pisces, with the co-ruler being Neptune, right? Neptune's in Pisces right now, conjunct Mercury, man, as I'm making this video about Mercury. Jeez, man. So that's why there's an extra realm of illusion, right? So Mercury doesn't mess with illusion. That's the natural opposite to everything Mercury deals with. Pisces is the epitome of the right brain, and Mercury is the epitome of the left brain. So that's why Mercury basically is rendered useless, completely just thrown for a loop in Pisces. But hey, man, we're halfway through right now. We're going to make it through. This last half is going to be crazy. I can feel it, man. The first half has been all right. It's been all right, man, but this last half is going to be crazy because the sun just went into Pisces today. So it's joining Mercury, and it's going to be showering us with all those illusions. But hey, man, much love for Pisces, man. We're never going to knock a sign or anything like that, man. We need them all. We need them all. So there's our little Pisces. There's our little chart. Hopefully this video helped you understand more about Mercury, and this is just adding to our series here of the planetary reception polarities. And I'm just trying to organize my terms right now. I just made this account a few days ago, so I'm just kind of getting the bugs out, putting up my first videos, and trying to get some topics going for you guys, so we can start jumping into the spaceship and addressing some cool stuff coming up in the future. So that's what I'm looking forward to connecting with all you wonderful members of the subconscious community out there, and just everyone. Yeah, man. Everyone can relate in some way, shape, or form, but no one's forcing you to do this. So the right people will be here, and that's how we're going to conduct our business. So hey, man, hopefully this video helped, and like, comment, subscribe, do your thing, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Until next time. Namaste, and Mercury loves you.